Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. And in today's video, I'm going to be discussing some of the adjustments Charles Olivera can make to actually defeat Islam Makhachev at UFC 294 in their highly anticipated rematch. I'm also going to be going over some of the mistakes that he made in the first fight that he can adjust. And if he makes those mistakes again in the second fight, he will pay dearly for. But he can easily fix these mistakes and actually give himself a very good opportunity to beat Islam Makhachev in their highly anticipated rematch. Let's get right into it. So the biggest adjustment Charles Olivera needs to make to defeat Islam Makhachev, I believe, is patience. Charles Olivera needs to be patient. That does not mean that he needs to get on the back foot and let Islam Makhachev pressure him. Islam Makhachev's a counter striker and he likes to move backwards. You know, it would maybe be a good idea to get Makhachev moving forwards. We've seen actually, even in the first fight, Makhachev's striking is nowhere near as good when he's moving offensively as it is defensively. We'll look at the Volkanovski fight.
Well, hard to imagine that Islam Makhachev has experienced a fight atmosphere like this. And now he drops Volkanovski.
He has some of the fastest hands when he's counter-striking I've ever seen in the lightweight division or in any division, period. But then you look at him when he's offensively striking, and I'll put a clip on screen right now.
Expect Olivera to go forward.
And it's just completely different. It's night and day. You know, Islam Makhachev is significantly better moving backwards than he is forward. So, you know, it might mean that, you know, Charles Olivera should have moments where he lets Islam Makhachev pressure him and he tries to play the role of the counter-striker in this fight. But the biggest thing is just being patient in general. Charles Olivera cannot play Makhachev's game. He cannot, you know, wade into his pocket and try to, you know, throw some wild strikes, exposing himself to the body, legs, or chin, and opening himself up to counter shots. What he needs to do is wait for Islam, pressure him back, and use effective footwork, the same kind of footwork that Sean Strickland used against Israel Adesanya. Charles Olivera needs to stay squared to Islam Makhachev the entire fight. There are two keys to victory for Charles Olivera: outside foot placement and hand trapping. We look at the Volkanovski versus Islam Makhachev fight. Because Volkanovski and Islam are two different stances, Volkanovski being orthodox and Islam Makhachev being a southpaw, Volkanovski was able to use his signature offensive and defensive move, hand trapping. And this is something that we saw from Charles Olivera himself when he fought Beneil Dariush back at UFC 289. When he landed those head kicks on Beneil Dariush and when he was in the pocket, squared up, he had the outside foot position. He was looking to trap that lead hand of Beneil Dariush, limiting his offensive and defensive tactics. When that lead hand is being controlled, you can no longer lift it up to guard yourself, and you can no longer use it to pump out a jab. Your hand is being controlled. It almost completely removes your lead hand from the equation. You cannot defend or, you know, try to, you know, mount an offensive attack on your opponent with the lead hand. You can only use the backhand or your legs. And it makes doing so, even with the other legs, even with your other arm, it makes it significantly harder to do when that lead hand is being trapped and when they have the upper hand in that situation. The other side of the coin, as I was talking about, is outside foot placement. Outside foot placement is one of the, you know, keys to boxing. It's one of the, you know, most basic boxing defensive and offensive tactics you can use. See, when you have the outside foot placement in boxing and Muay Thai and MMA, it doesn't matter. When your lead foot is on the outside of your opponent's lead foot, what that opens up is all of your attacks. All of your attacks not only have more power, they are much easier to land, your accuracy will increase, but it also significantly increases your ability to defensively move and use your hands and the rest of your body to block shots coming at you from your opponent. And as I said earlier, it also allows your attacks to generate a lot more power because you're able to generate a lot more torque in your legs and generate a lot more power. All power comes from the legs. All power in the kicks and the punches, they all come from the legs. And it opens up a lot more attacks for you. Outside foot position against an opposite stance fighter and lead hand trapping are some of the keys to victory. And you see Volkanovski is one of the best of all time at this, if not the best of all time at outside foot placement against opposite stance fighters, and especially his hand trapping. Volkanovski arguably has the best hand trapping in all of MMA history. And back to what I was saying earlier about the low activity, the patience of Charles Olivera. He needs to be very patient as he was in the Beneil Dariush fight, perhaps even more patient than that. He needs to be pumping out the jab, you know, landing the teep, landing leg kicks, not throwing a lot with the hands, not throwing the big hooks, none of the jumping stuff, none of the goofy techniques, as you'll hear people say. I know he's very calculated with it. You look at the, you know, the Justin Gaethje fight, you look at the Dustin Poirier fight. He can throw that stuff against fighters like that when there's the threat of the takedown. You know, when Islam Makhachev can duck under attacks like that and shoot takedowns and stuff like that. We saw that against, you know, Volkanovski when Islam fought him. Volkanovski tries to blitz in for a combo. Islam Makhachev shoots under and gets to the hips in about half a second. It was one of the fastest takedowns I've ever seen. Charles Oliveira is in risk of getting taken down if he tries to throw that kind of stuff. And he's also at a huge risk of getting cracked on the feet. And that's exactly how he was cracked on the feet, dropped, and submitted in the first fight. He cannot make that same mistake again. Charles Oliveira needs Islam Makhachev to initiate the exchanges on the feet and look to counter-strike with him. He needs to trap the lead hand, get the outside foot placement, and be very patient. Wait for Islam Makhachev to try to throw out a big right hand, try to throw out a leg kick, and look to come over the top with his own right hand. Look to maybe clinch up with him, land a knee, land a teep. He needs to do stuff like that. As far as the clinch, though, the clinch is going to be a very dangerous area for Charles Oliveira. But there's something people aren't noticing. Charles Oliveira is not in a lot of risk when he's clinched up with Islam Makhachev in the center of the octagon. When Charles Oliveira is in risk when he's in the clinch, it's when he's up against the fence. If Charles Oliveira finds himself in the clinch, up against the fence, he needs to immediately try to ignore all attack. He needs to not think about landing a knee, not think about landing a punch. He needs to purely focus on reversing the position or escaping. Landing punches, landing kicks, landing knees to the body, going body, head. That is not the way to beat Islam Makhachev in the clinch, especially if you're a guy like Charles Oliveira. He needs to focus on not letting Islam Makhachev take him down. There was an excellent high IQ clinch exchange from Islam Makhachev in the first fight, where Charles Oliveira throws a knee, Islam Makhachev eats it, Charles Oliveira goes to throw that second knee, Islam Makhachev reads it and makes a calculated decision, so that the moment Charles Oliveira's leg hits the ground after kneeing Islam Makhachev, he goes for a modified Uchimata trip up against the fence, takes Charles Oliveira down. Charles Oliveira was too focused on hurting Islam Makhachev, landing the big shots. He cannot focus on this. He needs to focus on chipping away at him, just slowly winning the battles. He needs to focus on the little wins. The little wins, the one shot, the one teep you land, the one leg kick you land. He needs to focus on that instead of hoping to land a million shots or a million hard shots at that. Just landing the one teep, just winning those small exchanges. That's how Islam Makhachev beat him, and that's how Islam Makhachev frustrated him enough to be able to draw Charles Oliveira into his game and land a massive counter shot, putting him down and eventually submitting him. He cannot play that game. He needs to focus on the little wins, just the little jab, the little right hand, the teep, the leg kick. Nothing huge, nothing that's going to have Islam Makhachev on Crip Street, flailing around the octagon, not knowing where he is, completely dazed out of his mind. But just the little shots, the little wins for Charles Oliveira are going to pay huge dividends in this fight. And he needs to focus on that instead of focusing on getting the big finish with one punch. That cannot be his game plan. And that same game plan got him punished badly and essentially got his belt taken away from him in the first fight. People need to understand Charles Oliveira actually has very good takedown defense when he's trying to stuff your takedowns. He's also very good on the ground when he's trying to be. You know what I mean? Charles Oliveira is often looked at as, oh my gosh, Islam Makhachev's the grappling advantage. Islam Makhachev's going to easily take him down. If he focuses on stuffing the takedowns as opposed to landing shots, Islam Makhachev is going to take advantage of those shots. Maybe, like I said, just like I mentioned, when he lands that knee, the moment the leg touches the ground, modified Uchimata, stuff like that. If he focuses on just stuffing the takedowns, going under, getting a 2-on-1 grip on the tricep, stuff like that, digging under the neck, the proper way, taking a running man stance, things you're supposed to do to stuff takedowns. If he focuses on things like that, he can stuff the takedowns to Islam Makhachev and nullify him in the clinch. But if he focuses on landing those shots and tries to get too over-aggressive, too, overconfident that he's going to stuff the takedown or that he's going to be fine on the ground, which is something I'm going to get into in a second here, he's going to get taken down and he's going to get finished and dominated in the same way he did in the first fight. The last area that Charles Oliveira needs to make adjustments to beat Islam Makhachev is on the ground. Obviously, these are two high-level grapplers going at it, and not just grapplers. People don't look at Islam Makhachev as a high-level striker, but he is. Islam Makhachev, outside of maybe Justin Gaethje and Charles Oliveira, is easily one of the best strikers in the lightweight division. You know what I mean? Look at what he did to Volkanovski. Look at what he did to Charles Oliveira in the first fight. He proved he was the better striker than Charles Oliveira in that fight. I don't want to hear about the threat of the takedown, stuff like that. Charles Oliveira has never been afraid of a takedown in his life. He knows if he goes to the ground, he can hang with anyone. He literally hung with Islam Makhachev in the first fight. He is not scared of the takedown. Islam Makhachev proved he was a better striker than Charles Oliveira, and he was a better grappler in the first fight. But nonetheless, Charles Oliveira still has a way to win by using his grappling. But it's not looking to submit Islam Makhachev. People always talk about Charles Oliveira as the submission expert. He is not going to submit Islam Makhachev. He was not able to submit Michael Chandler. He's not going to be able to submit Islam Makhachev unless he rocks him badly, unless he hurts Islam Makhachev badly, maybe does the same thing that Islam did to him in the first fight where he frustrates Islam, lands a big counter shot, maybe hurts Islam badly, Islam goes to the ground, and then he maybe locks up a rear naked choke or an arm triangle. Who knows? A triangle, it doesn't matter. Maybe some ground and pound shots like he did to Beneil Dariush. It doesn't matter. Charles Oliveira's way to win cannot be looking to find a submission on Islam Makhachev unless he's severely hurt, rocked, or tired. You know what I mean? It's just not going to happen. It's not going to be there. Islam Makhachev is one of the most defensively sound grapplers I've ever seen in my entire life, and he's never just going to give up a submission to you. Charles Oliveira cannot just be looking to submit Islam Makhachev. The biggest thing, and this is my biggest point when it comes to the grappling with Oliveira, he cannot be comfortable on the ground. He needs to focus on getting up to the feet immediately. You look at Volkanovski at UFC 284, he was able to nullify a lot of Islam Makhachev's grappling because he was so determined to get to his feet the moment it hit the ground. He was very focused on defending the takedown, but if he did end up getting taken down, he would immediately look to scramble up to his feet. There is nothing more tiring, there is nothing more draining than when you take someone down who is already very difficult to take down, and then the moment they hit the ground, they're already bouncing right up back to their feet. They're looking to scramble, they're looking to reverse the position. That is what Volkanovski was able to do to Islam Makhachev. And Islam Makhachev still got the better of Volkanovski in a lot of encounters on the ground. He's a phenomenal grappler. But this is what Charles Oliveira needs to look to replicate in this fight. Charles Oliveira, the moment the fight hits the ground, and don't get me wrong, it will. We are going to see Islam Makhachev and Charles Oliveira on the ground in this fight. The moment it hits the ground, Charles Oliveira needs to do everything he can to stop the takedown. But if it does end up on the ground, and it will, like I said, he needs to immediately look to be scrambling up to his feet. He cannot be patient on the ground. If he's on top of Makhachev, that's one thing. But if he's on bottom, he cannot be comfortable off his back, looking to lock up a triangle, looking to lock up a arm triangle off of his back, looking to, sweep Makhachev. That's one thing. Using a sweep to get back up to your feet, but he cannot just be looking to lock up all these random chokes and joint locks off of his back. It's not going to be the way to win. He cannot look to tie up one of the arms and submit him with an armbar. That's just not going to happen. Islam Makhachev is so defensively sound on the ground. There was an incredible exchange in the first fight, though, where Charles Oliveira used a leg lock position to end up off-balancing Makhachev, floating the leg, floating the shin with his own shin, and then escaping out the back door, ending up, standing up in a rear body lock position, and then Islam Makhachev broke free of it, and they ended up striking on the feet again. He can look to replicate this in this fight. He can look to, off-balance Makhachev. But at any moment in this fight, if Charles Oliveira is comfortable off of his back, Islam Makhachev is going to be winning those exchanges, landing body, head, and just winning the round on top. And Charles Oliveira is not going to have much of an answer for it if he tries to just lock up some random submission. Charles needs to look to go deep half in this fight. He needs to look for deep half guard constantly and look to float the hips and float the shins of Islam Makhachev, looking for openings and escaping when he finds those openings. Not waiting for the big submission, not waiting for the big moment to happen, immediately going after the second you hit the ground, immediately looking to float the hips, immediately looking to create some space, scramble out, shrimp out, and immediately get back up to his feet. That is the way that Charles Oliveira can beat Islam Makhachev. And if Charles Oliveira makes all of these adjustments, there is a very good likelihood that he could beat Islam Makhachev at UFC 294 and reclaim the lightweight belt. So let me know what you guys thought of this video down below in the comments. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you do not miss another upload. I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.